Hi, my name's John. Welcome to the next edition of the Mini Tips video. Now in this edition we're going to be looking at aperture. We touched on it briefly in the last video, so you probably understand the basics of aperture and how it works. The aperture is the hole in the lens that allows more or less light to travel through to the chip behind. If we want the picture to be lighter, then we'll have a bigger hole. We'll open up the aperture. If we want to let less light in, then we'll close down the aperture. We'll make the hole smaller to let less light in. Now, obviously, changing exposure is one of the main reasons for having an aperture. But the way the aperture, how big or how small the aperture hole is, actually fundamentally affects the finished result, the finished picture, apart from the exposure. So we've got two examples to show you of some pictures that we did recently, and you'll see they're very similar pictures. They're taken around the same sort of time, but one of them has a very different look and a very different feel to the other one. Now, I say they're both very similar pictures, but as you look at the first one, you'll notice that the background is very, very sharp. You've got the girl's face, but behind it's very distracting. You can see a lot of things happening behind the picture, which drags your eye away from the main point of the picture, which is the girl. The second picture, however, if we have a look at the second picture, the background is very, very soft and blurred, and that becomes just a background. Your eye doesn't get drawn to it, and all the emphasis goes onto the face. Now, this is something where we can use the aperture is used to control this. Now, if you use a very wide aperture, then this cuts down on what's called the depth of field, and that means that the point you focus on will be sharp, but very rapidly everything in front and behind will get very soft and blurred. If we have a very small aperture, however, that's when you get that very big depth of field, which means that from the point you focus on, everything behind and everything in front is much more likely to be in focus and sharper. And using a very small aperture and a very small depth of field really can improve your photography by just focusing on what you want the subject to be focused on. Right, I hope you found that. Hope they found that useful. Don't forget, with those wide apertures, that gives that lovely narrow depth of field. It's going to allow more light through, so we're going to need to compensate by having a faster shutter speed, so that we get the exposure correct and don't allow too much light through the lens to overexpose the picture. Next time we'll be looking at shutter speed, so I'll hopefully see you then for the next mini video tips.